because one of the things that we need to recognize is that if the magi are brought to the scene of the manger itself, which is not mentioned in Matthew, by the way, it's sort of imported into our imaginations from the Gospel of Luke. If magi gather to see the Christ child as observers, as homage payers, their partners are much lower on the social scale. The shepherds who come from the fields at the behest of angels, remember that? Not only Mary and Zechariah, but also shepherds get angel visits in the Gospel of Luke. And shepherds are not beloved characters or high ranking characters in ancient culture. Aristotle has a somewhat damning appraisal of them in his book Politics when he's classifying levels of people. He says, in the lives of people, too, there is a great difference. The laziest of all are shepherds who lead an idle life and get their subsistence without trouble from tame animals. Their flocks wandering from place to place in search of pasture, they are compelled to follow them, cultivating a sort of living farm, right? If you're a shepherd, that's not exactly flattering. It's not something you'd put on your TripAdvisor or your you know your app that would uh, help people hire you for their sheep. And in Philo, we get another version of this that gives why somebody like Aristotle might not care for shepherds. When the king asks, "What is your occupation?" they'll answer, "We are shepherds, we and our fathers." If the discussion had been merely about the care of goats or sheep, perhaps these kings, these higher ups in culture that Philo's talking about, would have been ashamed to make such an admission. Oh, excuse me. The Jews might have been ashamed to make such an admission through desire to avoid dishonor, for such occupations are accounted inglorious and mean among those who are loaded with great prosperity, without being at the same time endowed with prudence, and especially among kings. So, in other words, Philo, in flowery language, is saying kings look at shepherds and think dung, right? Low, mean, inglorious. And it's because for Philo, who isn't so anti-shepherd, for Philo, shepherds are okay, uh, but kings aren't endowed with prudence, which would tell them shepherds are necessary and they do something good for the culture. These two passages, which are both from a little bit of a distance from first century Palestine, Aristotle, the 300s BC, Philo, sort of the century before in Alexandria, but they give us a general cultural take that shepherds are not the people you invite to your dinner party. Right? They're not the people who are classed in society. If you're a person of some means or status, they're the low ones. And there they show up at the stable next to these dignitaries from the East, these magicians bringing very expensive gifts to this king, side by side.